Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we're going to be talking about the top 10 characters that I really want to see added to the game in 2022 for Marvel Future Fight. Now, we do have 248 characters right now in the game, so it's pretty big. We're close to maximum capacity, but we're not quite yet there. And it was brought to my attention that last year in 2021, they only added like 11 or 13 new characters. And that is just way too few. The year before, I think they added about 28, and the year before that was about 25. So I think we need to get back on track with Marvel Future Fight. And I know there are upcoming MCU properties and new movies. They're going to be introducing new characters, new heroes, new villains. And I know we also had the new character voting poll from last year or last year where they asked players, hey, which 10 characters do you want to see added to the game? And a lot of those characters have since been added, the likes of Null, Mephisto, and Sentry, but there are still so many more, right? There's at least 500 outstanding characters in Marvel, so I will try to distill that down into a list that not only represents the most popular characters, but also represents my personal favorites. Now, there is two things to know before we get started. One, my list is disproportionately male, and I don't know why that is. Maybe all the best female characters are already in the game. I don't know, but yeah, hit me up in the comments down below with some amazing, cool, unique female characters that you would like to see added. Number two, there is an honorable mentions list. I know I said top 10, but it's actually top 16 because there's 6 characters worth of honorable mentions that I could not add to the list. So we're going to start off with the honorable mention, Polaris and Havoc, because they were mentioned and they were ranked as 10 most wanted characters in this game from the last poll, but they have yet to materialize in the game, so I won't be mentioning them again because I already know that you all really want them. And then personal picks that I thought would be very good, and most of them are mutant related. We have Multiple Man, Jamie Madrox, Dupe, which would be a hilarious addition side by side to Slapstick, Onslaught, shout out to iBig, and then Shuma Gorath. And I mentioned Shuma Gorath because we may be seeing him sooner rather than later in the movie, in the MCU, in the movie universe. And I just love the Marvel vs. Capcom days when Shuma Gorath was a playable character, and I want that brought back. So, starting us off at number 10, we have Guardian. And Guardian is a super cool character and had to make this list because he literally wears the Canadian flag on his chest. So I'm not the biggest homer, but I do need to mention him a little bit because not only, I mean, there's so many connections here. You've got Alpha Flight, which could bring in other characters like Puck and Sasquatch who are not on this list, but they're cool anyways. Guardian himself is an awesome character. You got energy projection, flight, all this really cool stuff, and I just think he would be a very interesting character to either bring in as a sort of typical blast or typical universal type, or the potential to be very interesting as a combat type who deals like energy damage, sort of like an Iron Fist type character. But we already see what he can do in a game like Contest of Champions, and it really gets me excited for what the MFF devs could do with that power set, because you really want to choose, and this is why it's difficult to do a top 10 list, you want to choose characters that are not only really cool in the comics and really popular, but also, and have a chance of being added, right? We don't want to dig too deep down into the well, but also that will have a very good representation in this game. And there are some characters that I may have wanted to put on this list, but their representation in this game just wouldn't fit and wouldn't really make sense. Like, for example, Multiple Man, which is why he was honorable mention. Coming in at number 9, we have Prowler. And if you've seen Into the Spider-Verse, you know how cool he can be. And if you haven't, then you've seen him in other things because he's been in the comics for a long time. He was in the Spider-Man animated series multiple times as both a foe and ally to Spider-Man, and he really has his fingerprints all over the sort of heroes for hire level, villain and hero that we see in the Marvel universe, and we see burgeoning in the MCU universe. You know, Spider-Man, Punisher, Kingpin, Daredevil, all these players have had a run-in or two with Prowler, and he is so cool. You've got, of course, the obvious connection to Miles Morales, but he's basically like a lower grade villainous version of Batman with this very high tech, arsenal and array of different things that he can do. And then his fighting style is actually really cool, up close and personal. I just really like the idea of having a combat character, in my opinion, that would be able to sort of combine together all of these different aspects, could maybe go invisible at times, like so you could have a PvP threat going on. I just think Prowler would be so dope, and I love purple. It's my favorite color, so it kind of just blends all together. Coming in at number 8, we have Cloak and Dagger, and I think the fact that it's 2 characters sort of packaged in and rolled together as one has been why it's been difficult for game developers to roll them out into other games, and we've basically only seen them thus far in Marvel Strike Force. But I do think we have some really good opportunities and some examples like Mephisto in Marvel Future Fight where Cloak and Dagger could be used effectively. Now, there's always the elephant in the room where Cloak and Dagger could actually be 2 separate characters, and that's really cool because they don't always stick together. They are a partnership, but sometimes Cloak does his own thing, sometimes Dagger does her own thing, and they go off and do their own things. Maybe you could have maybe you'd have a restriction where you have to use them on the same team together, but they're separate characters. You could have a Mephisto situation where one of the skills swaps you from playing as Cloak to playing as Dagger, and I think it provides a really and presents a really unique situation because the characters are sort of like a yin and yang type, complement to each other. Cloak, he teleports around, he's more defensive, he has access to this darkness and this sort of, shadow control, and then Dagger comes in for Cloak and has these long range attacks. She has the healing, she has the light, the dazzling, sort of like Dazzler kind of thing. So I think it'd be really, really cool to have them in the game. At number 7, GORR the God Butcher. Now, we have not seen him yet in any game, so this one is a bit of a long shot, but I put him on this list at 7 because there's a chance with the Thor 4, Thor Love and Thunder, that he could come to the game. We know, or there's lots of rumors that Christian Bale has been tapped to play GORR the God Butcher, and we already have the in-game connection of Null to sort of start to bring together this, alien villain force. Now, as far as GORR the God Butcher goes, he would be one of the coolest characters to ever exist in this game, and frankly, when I was making this list, it was really hard for me to not just select 10 villains because there's still so many good villains in the Marvel Universe that have not been tapped for games, and GORR probably represents the best among them. He's just so savage, so insanely cool, would have so many awesome animations, and it just would fit so perfectly and have that sort of dark vibe that we loved to see with Null, that I would love to see again with a future character like the God Butcher. Hercules. At number 6, Heracles, not sure how to pronounce it, but it doesn't matter. A very straightforward character, big muscles, lots of hair on his chest, and just, bonks enemies out of existence or into some subconscious existence with his immense strength and fighting ability. That's really it for Hercules. There's not too much to explain, but he's just a dope character. He's not going to do anything, insanely unique. He's not going to bring anything stupendously different to the table, but he's just going to represent one of the tankiest, most, muscle-bound dudes. And frankly, after Immortal Hulk, I think there's more of an audience for this than the devs give credit for. So I would love to see Hercules added to the game, and there's nothing more satisfying than just literally just punching your enemies into submission, and he would absolutely deliver on that. Moving into the top 5, we're going to start off on a bit of a spooky foot here with Man-Thing. Already featured in Marvel Contest of Champions, this character is surprisingly similar to the DC counterpart Swamp Thing, but Man-Thing is different, I swear. The best part about this character, not only does he look insanely cool, but he would basically be the opposite of Hercules. Whereas Hercules is just punching and kicking, maybe using a weapon here or two, Man-Thing is going to access, this really cool plant manipulation sort of thing, growing all these different vines and all these different things, being able to heal himself through the whole connection to nature, and it would just probably make for some of the most gorgeous animations that we've seen in the game. I love characters that have this sort of connection to one particular element, and nature is almost like the element of Earth. So I would absolutely love to see what the devs could come up with for Man-Thing. He could grow in size like we see some characters like Mephisto and Hulk do. So you'd have that option as well, or something like a Dormammu where he gets really, really big. We've seen it also recently with Mr. Sinister where he sort of summons a bigger version of himself in behind. So there's just so many different ways that the devs could be super creative with Man-Thing, and I would just love it, right? You'd have flowers, you'd have plants, you'd have vines, you'd have all this sort of things going on, and then he'd just be like wrecking the bosses. Top 4, Super Skrull, and of course I had to put Super Skrull at number 4 because Super Skrull combines the powers of the 4 unique members of the Fantastic Four. Say that 5 times fast. Now, I'm not really sure why the devs have not pounced on this idea already. It's probably still a long way away from seeing Super Skrull on scene on screen, excuse me, because of the amount of CGI and prosthetics and stuff involved, right? This character is so crazy. You've got the bouldery side of Ben Grimm, you've got the stretchy side of Mr. Fantastic, you got the flames from Johnny, and then of course you have the on again, off again invisibility of Invisible Woman. But I think it would just be amazing. We have Doctor Doom, we have the Fantastic Four, the stage is set here, and he could be added to the game. He's already in Contest of Champions, so there's already, and I think he's already in Strike Force. Yeah, so we're behind. We're months behind here on Super Skrull. It's high time that he be added as a universal villain to just have the all 4 members of the Fantastic Four. Basically, you have access to all 4 of those amazing animations, and they could probably get away with recycling bits and pieces of animations because he would sort of be calling on those different skills in his skill set, sort of like Taskmaster, not exactly like it, but it would be a really good way to introduce him to the game. And I'm sure it wouldn't cost as much as it normally does for a character of his caliber. At number 3, we have Omega Red. Now, I love Wolverine, and therefore I have to, by proxy, love all of his villains because they keep his comics and his stories alive through their interactions and their different, meetups and clashes. And Omega Red might be the coolest Wolverine villain to date, notwithstanding some new additions, because of everything he brings to the table. We've got the amazing Russian accent, of course. We've got the hand-to-hand combat. We've got those trademark tentacles that come out of his wrists. Like, it's so creepy and yet so menacing and cool. And he binds you. He drains your energy, right? He has all this different effects. He sort of poisons you. You got all this really cool, these really cool aspects of the character that can be exploited to make him either like a tanky character, a high damage dealing character. He can get in and do, close range stuff, but he can also do long range stuff with the tentacles and like whipping and stuff like that. So I think Omega Red is just a really good option, just a really cool villain. There's not really too much more to say about him, but it would be awesome to have him in the game. And so at number 2, I chose Annihilus. And here's the thing. I'm not a huge fan of Bugs, although I do like Spider-Man, but Annihilus really does take the cake as one of the most underrated and spookiest villains in the wider Marvel universe. Now, it's probably going to be, again, years before we see anything resembling Annihilus on screen because of all the CGI and stuff, but he has the access to this Annihilus horde and these just like, waves upon waves of sort of like bugmen that threaten the Nova Corps, that threaten all these different corners of the galaxy because he's just a monster who's bent on, death and destruction and domination. So Annihilus could have a lot of really cool abilities that would make him a powerhouse in this game. He could obviously have a revive because, you can't kill a bug on the first try, right? You got to keep squashing it. He's got that crazy exoskeleton that gives him all this durability, the flight. He's got all the typical, checklist to strength, stamina, whatever that villains have. And then he also has access to the cosmic control rod, I believe, which is then going to give him energy projections and blasts, this kind of thing, molecular manipulation. So there's really a lot of different ways, depending on how powerful or powered down they want to build Annihilus before they introduce him into the game, that they could do. And that, I think, presents a really cool opportunity for the devs to mold this villain to like fit the meta, which I think would be really dope. And so the top spot goes to Kang the Conqueror. Now, before you call me a massive Loki Disney Plus simp because Jonathan Majors did an amazing job as Kang in the last episode, hear me out. What if I told you that there was a villain that they haven't added to the game yet who can time travel whenever they want? They have genius intellect. Because of being able to time travel and exist for, thousands of years, they've been able to come up with this crazy technology that they can access, guns, ships, all this kind of stuff. They, of course, have all the staples, enhanced strength, all this kind of stuff, hand-to-hand combat, defenses and resistances. He's got so many cool tricks up his sleeve. He's got, hologram projection, energy projection, through different, forms of technology that he has. And I just think the devs could just, time travel alone is already an amazing ability to exploit in a character. And they have so many other options to go for it with Kang that I think it's just a no-brainer. And I think he would look so cool, and it would be so dope to see him bring other conquerors in through portals or whatever. Like, we've seen what they can do with Spider-Man. Take that 1 or 2 steps further and you can get some really cool Kang abilities, if you know what I'm saying. So I think Kang is just a no-brainer, and plus his suit is mostly purple. And of course, y'all know how I feel about that. So that's my list. That's my top 10 list of characters that I would love to see in Marvel Future Fight. Side note, I would love for at least a few of these to be sort of native tier 2 or native tier 3 in the sense that you have to beat them in a piece of content in order to unlock them, because I just love that idea. Whether it's GBR, World Boss Ultimate, World Boss Legend, or something else, it doesn't really matter to me, but I just love that idea in general. But that's something for another video, another topic, not specifically pertaining to these characters in and of themselves. So hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on my top 10 list. Let me know your top 10 list. Smash the like button for more Watch Mojo content or Watch Alex content, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.